Well, for more on this, we're joined by the head of the Palestine International Broadcast, Osama Nazzal, live from the occupied West Bank in Jenin. Sir, once again, thank you so much for joining us on Asia One. So just how significant is Hamas's decision to dissolve its governing body after nearly 2 decades in power?
Yeah, this is just the carpet from beneath the foot of the Israeli prime minister and the Israeli government, which declared many times that it's not going to implement the terms of the ceasefire agreement forced by the American president and the international community as long as Hamas is still in the political scene. Now, Hamas is throwing the fireball into the Israeli court, telling the Americans and all the mediators that it is no longer politically active in the Gaza Strip and it's handing over all the powers and all the governance issues to the National Committee of Gaza Administration. So I think this is a very advanced step towards convincing the international community and the Americans that the implementation of the deal is possible and it has a lot of potential, and all that is required just to convince or repress the Israeli government to accept that.
And so how likely is it that the technocratic committee will proceed smoothly?
Yeah, really, according to the reports coming from Gaza and from the negotiating parties, Hamas has given up all the things related to governance and control of Gaza, and just the start of the work of the National Committee requires the Israeli consent, which means that Hamas did all that is required from it, and it responded to the requirements of the Board of Peace and of the American president, implementing all the terms and the clauses of the ceasefire agreement. So when it comes to the Palestinian side, I don't think that there is any obstacle or any barrier to the work of the National Committee of Gaza Administration. But the question that has no answer yet is Israel going to approve of that or not? And we heard the Israeli senior officials commenting on this step by saying that this is not more than a manipulation and a ploy by Hamas movement, and this indicates that Israel does not have the seriousness and the intention to allow the National Committee of Gaza Administration to exercise its powers and its work, which is, of course, in contravention of the agreement and the vision of the Board of Peace. In the end, if Israel keeps stubborn and refuses to allow the committee, that is a slap in the face of the American president, Donald Trump, who is heading the Board of Peace.
And so what challenges will the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza face if it assumes civilian governance?
Yeah, now you know that Gaza is like a cage. It is controlled and besieged by Israel, and just one pill of medicine or one loaf of bread can't get into Gaza without permission from the Israeli occupation government. So if Israel responds to the Board of Peace requirement and to the international community wish and allows the National Committee to start its work, then that is the end of the major problem. So the major problem is whether the members of the committee are going to be allowed to move from Cairo to Gaza or not, because they have been in Cairo for the last 10 months, maybe. Now, if it starts its work upon Israeli permission, of course, it's going to have a lot of challenges because we are talking about ruined Gaza. There is no aspect of life there, really, as Israel destroyed everything, no health sector, no education sector, no infrastructure, no sewage system, no housing unit. So what is required from this committee is really tremendous and not easy to fulfill unless there is international will and international decision to help save the people of Gaza.
And could a new civilian administration help improve the humanitarian access and the reconstruction efforts within Gaza?
Now, according to the statements and what has been agreed on, of course, such issues must be facilitated. But on the ground, the situation is different because Israel did not allow access of a humanitarian aid as it was required by the agreement, really. And what gets into Gaza is just like a drop of the ocean. The humanitarian aid is trickling down there, and the people have nothing sufficient, really, whether when we are talking about food, medicine, clean water, or that. And we see how Gaza children are still spending hours of their time in order to have a bucket of water for themselves and for their families. So all that depends on the decision of the Israeli government. If it's going to allow the National Committee to exercise its powers according to the agreement and to the Port of Peace, and the world would really donate more to Gaza, the humanitarian crisis can be assuaged, can be reduced. But I'm not optimistic about that because the Israeli vision for Gaza and the Israeli officials' recent statements, as Israel is clear, Israel wants to keep its military forces on over 70% of the Gaza Strip, keep the siege imposed on Gaza, and using Hamas and the arms and all that stuff just as a pretext and excuse for its major political goal, which is to keep its forces in Gaza and maybe building settlements in the north of Gaza in particular.
And so, how will the Palestinian Authority and the rival factions read this move?
Really, the Palestinian Authority welcomed any move that allows the ceasefire to hold. And there was a meeting between the deputy president of the PA, Sani Sheikh, and Mladinov, the head of the Board of Peace. And there was a kind of agreement between both. But once again, the wall is Israel. Is Israel going to allow the Palestinian Authority to have any role in the Gaza Strip? And we see how it is shrinking its powers and is undermining its status in the occupied West Bank. And we see how the Israeli occupation forces raids are escalating against the major Palestinian cities, mainly the seat of the Palestinian Authority, Ramallah. So while Israel is undermining the PA in the West Bank, is it going to allow it to have powers and to grow and to have control in Gaza? I think this is a very complex problem because Israel does not believe in genuine peace with the Palestinians and it's killing any opportunity for the two-state solution. So I think things are going to be very much complicated and without serious intervention by the American administration to pressure Israel to accept the terms of the agreement and to implement the rules they agreed on, I don't think that we are going to see a genuine breakthrough.
And finally, sir, do you believe these developments bring Gaza closer to long-term stability, or is the political settlement still some way off?
I think it is still somewhere off because I don't think that it's possible to have stability in Gaza as long as Israel is occupying over 70% of Gaza. And the Israeli Prime Minister announced days ago that they are thinking of the rest of the Gaza Strip. So he views the 70% of Gaza as enough yet. And also statements by the Israeli Minister of Finance and the Israeli Minister of National Security for building settlements in the north of Gaza and pressing not to listen to the Americans or any other party in the world concerning Israeli military withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. So the Israeli statements and the Israeli behavior on the ground is not really promising at all. Just today, they killed after this statement, they killed 6 Palestinians and injured many others in the Gaza Strip. So the situation on the ground is completely different from what we hear and what we see in the media. And if we are focused on the situation on the ground, I don't see a solution or, once again, a breakthrough in the near future. What is required from the Americans and the whole world is much pressure on Netanyahu to come to terms with what is being suggested now.
So thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it lots.